Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, you're going to learn about how to evaluate which GPU is best for any coin. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the channel. My name is Seth, and you're watching Mine Your Biz. This spreadsheet that I'm about to show you has been something that I've created as a public service for the last 3+ years, and you can find a copy of it embedded over on mineyour.biz on the page that you see linked down below in the description of this video. Now, the thumbnail and the video that's embedded will change after this video goes live, but the spreadsheet is still the same. You can, of course, sign up for all the other stuff, take a look at our services, shop, do whatever else that you want to do at mineyour.biz. But all these resources are here, including a link directly to the doc itself, or the ability, if you're signed in with Google, to simply click on the File button and then make a copy to your own Google Drive. You might want to do that to create customizations within the spreadsheet. I'm sorry, but last time we opened this up to the community, we got weird comments, we got spam, and, in some cases, people were abusive towards each other, so we had to shut that down. Unfortunately, yeah, it only takes one bad person to ruin it for everybody else. But if you want to make a copy, you can. That said, let's jump into how this spreadsheet works. Over on Google Drive, you can see on the main tab here that says Data, there's a bunch of different fields, a bunch of different rows and columns, and they all give us really rich information about what you can learn about different GPUs. Now, on the left-hand column, it's color-coded, so you can see which GPUs are AMD and which GPUs are NVIDIA brand GPUs. Next to that, there's a price. Now, is this the most accurate price? Is this going to be the price, 5 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now when everything changes? No. Markets change. As you know, prices are subject to availability, and they're also subject to the local market that you live in. What this price represents here on this spreadsheet is the average of what you could kind of reasonably expect to pay on eBay or on Amazon to get fast shipping and to find it available in bulk, meaning more than, say, 2 of these GPUs. If you wanted to have them sent to you, this is roughly the price that you would pay right now, give or take. Again, there may be a little margin, but you might see prices that are higher than this in your local market if you tried to check out, say, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Of course, you might be able to do even better, meaning lower prices when you go those routes as well. So best of luck finding the best price, but this is just going to be the starting point, okay? Next to that, there's an average and a minimum and maximum power rate. The average is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a formula that generates an average between the minimum and the maximum, and just a simple equation, right? A sum and then dividing by the number of entries. So yeah, straight, just what it sounds like. Putting in the maximum, this reflects not the manufacturer's specification for TDP. That's not the maximum power consumption. What this represents is the maximum that most mining software will push these GPUs to consume. So they could go higher in some cases, but this is, give or take, roughly the maximum that can be consumed on the heaviest hashing algorithm, something along the lines of KawPow or FearoPow or ProgPow, if there are any coins that still just use ProgPow. So that's where the maximum comes from. The minimum comes from, in some cases, the most optimized numbers that we can find across various different forums and leaderboards, and even on whattomine.com's numbers. So that's where we got that from. And this, again, wink, wink, is why it's so important that if you feel strongly about getting custom numbers, that you make a copy of this in your own Google Drive so you can make it as custom as you need it to be. But that's the basis for everything that follows. All of the hash rate numbers are exactly what you see described here. This is for Ethereum, right? There's a sample coin below the hashing algorithm that shows you the most popular coin. If you're new to mining, just know the hashing algorithm that's shown in that top line is not, it doesn't only correspond to one coin. There are other coins you can hash as well that you can earn rewards from when you're mining. These are just the most popular coins, and so I put their symbols there so that it's easier to read through this spreadsheet at a glance, right? So everybody knows that what Monero is, not everybody remembers that random X is the algorithm that it uses. Same with Ergo. It's become very popular. Not everybody knows that it's Autolykos, the algorithm. So that's why those two lines are together. But after you go down there, or after you check that out, you see that Autolykos, the very first entry here, is 15 megahashes per second. And that corresponds to the R9 380. Down the list, 54 megahashes corresponds to the R9 Fury. It's significantly higher performance, actually, because of that HBM memory. And so on and so forth. It's funny that it's only barely trailing behind the 4 gig Polaris card by AMD. Now, in fields where you see 0.00001, that's a placeholder for a 0 value. Why did I create that really small value instead of just typing in 0? Well, because this is based on Excel and a simple spreadsheet, I didn't want to create a divide by 0 error over on the other tab where we start to run some calculations. These sorts of applications, they have some limits. And so I didn't want to push it too hard. And I just created a placeholder value for 0, but it's the same across all of these, right? 10.4001. And that's the same for any 0 value anywhere in this spreadsheet. Any place that you see something like this, right, where it looks like just 0 and no decimals, look in the formula bar here. It's still the same value. It's just been shortened to look like it's just 0. We could do that across the entire spreadsheet. For today, I wanted to make sure that it was obvious that it's not just 0 in some of those other fields. All right. You're with me so far, right? Not rocket science yet, but it did take time to set up. And it takes a lot of time to sort of refine the data set if you want it to be really, really good data. For example, maybe you're really good at overclocking, and maybe you're really good at making a specific type of GPU mine a specific coin really efficiently. Well, that's a perfect case for you to modify these numbers. Or if you feel so inclined, if you want to share with the community, make a comment down below this video and tell us what your best numbers are for a given card type, coin type or algorithm type, and then what your hash rate and power consumption were for that coin on that card. That would go a long way towards refining this data set. And I promise, if you go out of your way to do that, I will update this master sheet here so the community has access to it. And it would just be so much appreciated. Guys, let's be the mentors that we wish we had. But moving down the list, guys, we see a lot of commonly used cards, something that's missing from the NVIDIA side or any of the LHR cards. Well, why did I make that decision? Because really, LHR only affects Ethereum mining. And right now, if you're like me, you're thinking about what am I going to mine after Ethereum? And what's the most efficient card for coins other than Ethereum? And that's where I think you're going to be surprised when we dig into the hash per dollar per watt tab. All right, speaking of which, we've gone over the basic data here. You know how this works, and you see that there's a variety of coins that we can draw data from, including the more popular coins that show up on our weekly live streams in the leaderboard, right? So Flux, Firo, even VertHash, and Conflux and Ergo, as well as others, right? So we know that they'll be represented in the other interpretation tab. So let's jump over to that tab, and let's start with one that we all know and love, Ethereum, right? ETHash. Click on that downward arrow and then sort sheet Z to A. You'll notice it reordered all of these rows. Why did it do that? Because when I sort sheet Z to A, it's now going to show me the highest value, 0.1, and then descending from there. That highest value represents the biggest bang for the buck in efficiency, right? So it's not just one ratio. It's a complex ratio or compound ratio between hashes per dollars per watts, all three combined. And it gives us a really, really great expression of what the best card is for a certain type of algorithm. Where did I get that idea from? Did I come up with it? No, I'm not that fancy. I'm not that intelligent. But I read it on bitcointalk.org years ago because guess who else talked about it in those terms? That's right. Bitcoin miners from when Bitcoin was GPU mineable. So this is an idea that's as old as GPU mining itself. So I can't take credit for it. You can find it by searching for it on bitcointalk.org. But here it is, distilled down to just one number. None of this idea is new. But scrolling down the list, what you might be surprised to see is that for Ethereum mining, first off, the R9 Fury, it's been cut out because of that really low percentage, right? It's basically 0%. So all these four are not even in the running. But the worst possible card for Ethereum mining is actually the RTX 3090. Gasp! Does that mean that the RTX 3090 is worthless? No. It just means that as a value, it is worth less than something that offers a better hash per dollar per watt. Now, does the RTX 3090 get good resale value? I think so. So far, it looks like it does. And a year from now, we might find that it holds its resale value even better than any of the RTX 2000 series cards or any of the top of the line GTX 1000 series cards. But let's be real. The GTX 1080 Ti resold very well even after miners were done mining with them. Gamers were very ready to purchase that card on the open market, and it held its resale very, very well. So that final variable there, that's for you to figure out. I could add it to a spreadsheet like this, but I think it would start to get a little bit too busy. Just know that could be something that you need to take into consideration if you're looking at new GPUs right now. But again, if you're like me and you're looking at the end of Ethereum profits and possibly, we don't know when, but possibly the end of a bull market returning back to what we call bottom support, price support in a return to a bear market, right? Or seeking bottom support in what will eventually be an extended bear market again, because these things move in cycles, then you're probably asking yourself also, what's the minimum I can get away with that will offer me the greatest value? And that's why this calculation is so important. Overspending on equipment right now could be a catastrophic move for some people. For other people, going into the deep end and trying to get the highest value cards they can, not just in hash per dollar per watt terms, but in resale value, is a very good strategy. And it might describe your situation. So don't be dissuaded by anything that I say here. Just know that I'm showing you one way to interpret this data that could be very helpful to you, especially if you're trying to build a mining operation at some degree of scale, because this scales very well. This equation scales very, very well. And let me prove it to you. Top of this list, the leaderboard, the top 5 are all of the mining edition cards from NVIDIA, which are still in production if you go to mining farms now, as well as the GTX 1060 and the Polaris 8 gig card. Now, if there are any professional mid-scale miners in the in the comments right now, you go ahead and tell everybody else in this audience whether or not that tracks. Are those cards, if they're in your fleet, are they still in the money? Are you still running them? Have you tried to resell all of them? Or are they still producing good returns for you? Day after day, week after week, month after month, and now for years on end? I think we all know the answer to that question. But I think that the data here showing hash per dollar per watt proves it. So that's why it's so important to me. Now, the power consumed, again, I mentioned before, it's based on the best estimate that I have. Personally, I've run those cards, which is why I show kind of the upper bounds of what is usually consumed. But let's be very realistic. A Polaris card, if you're drawing 150 watts to mine Ethereum, you're doing something wrong. Usually, you'll draw less than that. If you're drawing 69 watts out of it, you're possibly undervolting it to the point that you're going to cause damage or have a problem. But 110 watts is not that unreasonable. It is actually a fairly common amount of power to consume while you're still trying to make it more efficient. So that's why we have that average. And that's why I put in those numbers that I did. But let's go back to this spreadsheet and try to figure out the leaderboard for a different coin. Well, this is kind of just a wall of text, right? So it's harder to read at first. Let's use the data tab and try to figure out, first off, which coin we're interested in. So we'll scroll over and take a look at Autolycos, right? Or the Ergo coin. That might be something that you're interested in mining. And now we'll jump back to the hash per dollar per watt tab. And there we go. Scroll through here. and look for Autolycos. And we'll do the same thing. Click the down menu, sort sheet Z to A, and then scroll back over to see our results. It turns out the Polaris 4 gig card, it looks like it returns a good result. Let's go all the way to the bottom. But yeah, apparently in terms of hash per dollar per watt, the Polaris 4 gig card, because of that relative low price in comparison to everything else, but because of that relatively low price, that gives it a better score than even some of the Vega series cards, or the Vega core cards like Vega 56 or like Radeon 7, even though they do better profit daily for Autolycos and Ergo every single day. Let's take a look at our data tab to see if we can make sense of that. Because occasionally when you're working with this data set, you'll sort to see which one is best, and you'll get some surprises like that. I think the best way to handle that is to go back over to the master data tab and just double check to make sure our hash rates are correct. So, all right, here we are on the data tab, and take a look again at Autolycos. I'm going to highlight that column to make it a little bit easier to see. And it looks like, no, the Polaris 4 gig card, 55 mega hashes per second, only a little bit off of what the R9 Fury does. And it looks like, I have not yet. There we go. I'm going to move this over so we see our average power as I scroll. All right, that's going to make it easier. Scroll back over. It looks like our average power, when we look at this information at a glance, yeah, there's easily over 100 watts less power consumed by the Polaris 4 gig card at almost the same hash rate. So that explains why maybe the Polaris 4 gig card would show as a better value for mining Ergo than, say, the R9 Fury. Now, that said, the Radeon 7 at 230 mega hashes per second and only 195 watts average power consumed, it's no slouch. That's a pretty good performer. But it's priced at $1,700 to get those 230 mega hashes. You figure if you wanted to get 230 mega hashes and you wanted to use Polaris 4 gig cards, you would only need, what about 4 of those cards, roughly? And at the price that they sell for, that's only $1,000. So to fill up the original purchase price of the Radeon 7, you could get over 6 Polaris 4 gig cards. Yeah, a full mining rig. A full mining rig that can do all of these other coins as well at a higher hash rate. Yes, greater power consumed, I know. But you could hit the network just as heavy on that particular coin, Ergo, or you could go into Ethereum mining, right? So 93 mega hashes per second. Well, with 6 of these Polaris cards, if you went maybe not with a 4 gig card, but with an 8 gig card, similar architecture, same power consumption. If you were to go with that instead, at the same price, you would only take 3 of these cards to exceed the hash rate of the Radeon 7. But 3 of these cards costs less than $1,700. You see where I'm going with this? Sometimes scale for mining is not always a question of getting the latest card with the highest hash rate. Sometimes it's just a question of getting more of a different card that's good enough and efficient enough at the right price. So let's jump back in one last time, look for one more algorithm, one more coin. So we were already surprised by the 4 gig Polaris card on Ergo, or the Autolycos algorithm. Right now, flux mining is about as popular as it gets, right? So I might even have to put some keywords in this video to help it be sort of clickbaity. But let's take a look at this. Flux on Zelhash. Got a few top performers here, but a few cards that won't even return a result because there isn't good data on what to mine. Maybe you know of a good Zelhash number for some of these cards, or maybe this architecture is just not capable of hashing this algorithm. But there's plenty of other good data across all of the other cards. And surprise, surprise, Team Green is a pretty high performer for the Zelhash algorithm. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it perform well. Let's go back over to the hash per dollar per watt tab, scroll to the side, find Zelhash. There it is. Click that menu, sort sheet Z to A, and then scroll back over to see what the ranking looks like. And there it is. Some older cards. In fact, the leaderboard top 5 doesn't even include any of the newer versions of any of NVIDIA's cards. It includes things like the GTX 1050 Ti, things like P102, P104, and then GTX 1080. Not even the 1080 Ti, but the 1080. Likely because of the price that you can buy it for, right? $450. None of these cards is over $550, and they've got reasonable power consumption and reasonable hash rates. They're not ultra high performers, right? They're not the cards that everybody raves about being the highest performing GPU mining card. But they are consistent, and they are workhorses, and they've been known in the mining community to be really efficient over time and really scalable without too much headache in having a warehouse full of them. So let's just double check this list again. There's still a Polaris Edition card. In fact, there's a Polaris Edition card for this mining algorithm ahead of any of the RTX 3000 series parts in this particular lineup. And the worst possible entrant, let's take a look here. So Zel hash, let's see, we'll have some 0 entries down below. I'm going to highlight those, and then we'll see over on this side, those rows are highlighted as well. And it looks like, yep, so the 5600 XT downward. The very bottom of the list is the Radeon 7 for Zel hash. So flux mining on the Radeon 7, it might show a profit every day. But as far as getting the best card for hash per dollar per watt, right? Distilling down the full value of this card into just one number, Radeon 7, it ain't it. It's just not the card to go with. It looks like, based on this data set. Now, again, the biggest loser and the runner-up for biggest loser in this stacked ranking are the Radeon 7 and the RTX 3090. Even though they return stellar profits every single day. They do a really good job of returning profits every single day, and you might even be able to return your investment. You might be able to break even on your investment in these cards in a reasonable amount of time for you. So this isn't the only number that you need to pay attention to, but it is a very helpful number in trying to figure out, how do I fill my garage full of these, or a warehouse full of these, if that's what you want to do. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. If you have additional questions or you think I missed something, please let me know in the description or the comments, not the description. I'll write in the description. How about that? Okay. I'll stay in my lane here. You stay in yours. I know I can rely on you to give me helpful feedback that'll be helpful to the community. Guys, remember, we want to be the mentors that we wish we had. So I appreciate your joined effort in doing that. You're the reason I make this media, guys. You know I love your face. Remember to stay private and mind your biz. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Be sure to check out mineyour.biz, where you can sign up for our email newsletter, where we're still ramping up content, but you will occasionally receive specials for flash sales and all kinds of other deals that we have going on the site. You can also check out our services page, where we offer consulting to projects that need it. You can pick up the Freedom Phone, which respects your privacy. You can pay for it in crypto and have it shipped to you anonymously, as well as getting merchandise that also is paid for with crypto. That's right, we practice what we preach, including, well, a Flux swag page. That's right. It's a dedicated page just for the team over at Flux.network, because we love them that much. Thanks for watching to the end. Thanks for being subscribed. You know I love your face. Be sure to stay private and mind your biz.